It's okay here. I don't know others. But what I'm seeing here is like a testimony that INEC is getting it right.
I am glad with what I see. The process in my unit has been quite smooth and efficient. I just hope that the collation process will be the same.
Hello everyone, welcome to our continuing live coverage of the Edo State governorship election. I am Nifemi Oguntoye signing in for the evening broadcast. We've witnessed a remarkable show of resilience from the people of Edo State today as voters braved the rain and initial delays to exercise their civic duty. Despite the challenging weather conditions and logistical issues, polling units eventually opened with voters patiently waiting to cast their ballots. As you already know, the voting process got off to a slow start. According to Yega Africa's midday situational statement, by 7:30 a.m., INEC officials had arrived at only 43% of polling units, and by 8:30 a.m., only 17% of units had commenced accreditation and voting, increasing to 65% by 9:30 a.m. In response to the delays, INEC extended voting hours in affected areas until the last person on the queue has voted. Throughout the day, we've had our dedicated team of reporters provide you with exclusive and comprehensive updates from across the state. Now, as we transition into the result collation phase at both local government and state levels, we're bringing you expert analyses, live updates, and continuous coverage until the official results are announced. So stay tuned, everyone, for an uninterrupted flow of information. We are committed to keeping you informed every step of the way. Welcome on board to this critical phase of our coverage. Let's begin with reactions from the key stakeholders in this election.
For now, I'm glad with what I see. The process in my unit has been quite smooth and efficient. I just hope that the collation process will be the same.
We must protect the system. The people want democracy. They don't want dictatorship, including civilian dictatorship. And civilian dictator is anyone who, through the instrument of gun or other violent means, prevent people from voting with a view to falsify outcome in his favor.
What I'm seeing here is like a testimony that INEC is getting it right. A couple of friends are calling me to say I'm getting a lot of votes from different places, but I'm not there. I'm here because this is my home.
Most definitely. If the INEC officials have just come, the process hasn't even started, so we're over 2 hours delayed. So the only fair thing would be for closure.
Since morning, I think only 2 or 3 persons voted before the beavers developed faults. And why I was confident is that all other units, there's no problem. So that means it could be technology error.
Joseph Kunde is at the police command in Benin City. He joins me now with updates from the state capital. You shared a video of police air surveillance over the city earlier. Walk us through what police operation has been thus far.
It has been remarkable, Nifemi, I must say. They had a particular plan. What they had to do was to ensure that they were bringing a different template entirely, something that has not been tried or worked out before. That was why initially they had 35,000 police officers deployed here from different states in the country. And then they went further into having others as well. They had some that you didn't even know are police officers, but they were not wearing uniform. And it really went to according to plan, because some of the polling units, you see them there, they were not even carrying arms, but you wouldn't even know. But there were others that they knew that they were really black spots. So they went there, they were prepared for it. And true to it, if you talk about the level of violence in this election, the influence the police had in the election is very, very detailed. That's the reason why we have a handful of it coming through. Aside from the fact that as our last night, we had a handful of it. It was an intelligence report that they got. They acted on that intelligence and they arrested those persons. And then aside from that one, today, well, those ones, they also had a number of weapons on them. But for today, they also had a handful of arrests that was made. But it's not because of a violence or because of a ballot snatching. The ones that have been arrested that they brought down here to the state command of the police happens to be vote buying for about 6%. And then interestingly, there was also a fake journalist that was also here that was arrested alongside today.
There were huge security concerns ahead of this election. What's your general overview of things thus far, especially in the state capital?
Fantastic, I must say. There was a massive meeting yesterday between the service chiefs talking about the ones in Benin City, where we had the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the NSCDC, and others coming through to ensure that they had a detailed plan. And based on what they have said, we had several air surveillance coming through from the different security agencies. That they were taking turns in roaming around. And then when you see that happen, even if you have a mind of doing something wrong, you're going to have to think twice about it. Aside from that, there were a series of patrols that were being undertaken by several of these persons as well, talking about security agencies. So true to it, they kept to their word in ensuring that they made sure the state was safe. If not for the rain, perhaps maybe the number at the polling unit would have increased. But eventually, it was not because of security concerns. It was because of the bad weather that happened at some point.
INEC had to extend voting time because of late arrival of materials in some polling units. As we speak now, the curfew should be over. Can you confirm if election or voting rather has ended in all of the polling units in your area?
The moment I cannot confirm, because this area didn't have much of the problem that occurred in terms of the rainfall. So the ones that it was not affected, they had theirs coming through. But when you talk about the ones that were not in the capital, that's where they had most of it. Like the one that Amit was covering earlier on, himself and others, they had that particular issue. But thankfully for the intervention of INEC, they were able to resolve that and, of course, extended it. So, but the extension that was given was not for it to last up till 6 p.m. It was for them to be able to give them a couple of hours to be able to sort themselves out, which they're already doing. But aside from that, Nifemi, aside from that, Right now, yes, the traffic is steadily building up. People are now moving, they have really relaxed and the curfew that was supposed to be from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
All right, Joseph, we'll be right back with you. We need to know when collation is expected to begin in Benin City. Joseph Kunde live for us in the state capital. I'm joined by legal practitioner, public affairs analyst Libros Oshoma is right here with me in the studio. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you, my pleasure.
I was thinking that your people will be able to hold the rain, at least use some African technology, but it's been pouring.
No, the rain is part of showers of blessing.
On the election.
Yeah, you don't be surprised that it's also designed to, happen that way. So this is it's not a day you want to hold rain. Why some would want the rain, some would want it. So,
well, time will tell whether this would have contributed significantly to voter apathy, which has been a thing in the Edo election. But unfortunately, we're still talking about logistics.
Yeah. You see, the unfortunate part is before the elections, you hear of big numbers, but on election day, you will now begin to talk about voter apathy. There's no any election, any state election where you have had 70% turnout of voters.
Not even on national level.
National level is even poorer. So
I don't think we've had up to 50%.
So I think we need to really look at our numbers again and ask ourselves the truth. If we are really the numbers that we bandy around, I think if you remember, sometimes in 2010, when Jega started, the new voters register, when he said he was going to that there was no need to clean up the existing one that had names like Michael Jackson and co, and that he was going to embark on a new registration. After the registration, you had, huge numbers from some of these states. And then they ran the register through what they call then automated fingerprint identification system, where they call it AFIS. And the numbers reduced. And that the essence of running it then was to, phase out multiple registration. And I had governors complaining that their numbers were just being reduced. And politicians are more interested in polling units than the size of areas. So when you hear them bandy this number, I think the numbers also is to curry favor or to negotiate. Oh, that's in my area, the voting strength is this, the voting strength is that. So, but on election day, we really don't see those numbers.
No, we don't.
In
2016, 33% of registered voters in Edo actually voted. The number dipped to 24% in 2020. In a short while, we're probably going to also have the percentage of those who actually turn out. Today, from the reports we've gathered, there is still substantial voter apathy.
It is not about voters' apathy. What is happening is that because it is the people, this election...
You need to look at the figure now from not just from registered voters, from actual PVCs collected. Look, and in Edo is about 2.2 million.
Let me tell you, that some people collect PVCs as a means of identification. There are some people, it's not everybody who registered in Edo.
No, I'm just saying that this time, they are actual people, unlike in those days.
No, I'm telling you that it's not everybody that registered in a place, that is resident in that place.
Absolutely.
There are some students who registered in Edo, had collected PVCs, but have graduated and have gone for youth service. There are some persons also who are from Edo, and they who for some reasons will tell themselves, look, I don't think I'll be able to travel home with the bad roads and the cost to go vote. So let me just stay where I am. So all of this, because, we have this tendency, this state of origin thing, and to gravitate towards where you're from.
We have had this conversation about once you have the card, you should be able to vote anywhere.
Exactly.
You reside, actually. But let's get back to the field. Theophilus Elamai is standing by. Theo, where are you? And talk to us about what's happening at the polling units there.
All right, Nifemi, I'm in the heart of Benin City. I've gone round. I've gone to different polling units, but what we have seen right now is that businesses are beginning to pick up. People are beginning to move around. There's been restrictions this morning, and so you see businesses beginning to open up rather. You see vehicles moving around, people having the free hand to go about, to do whatever they need to do and all of that. Despite the fact that some places there was low turnout of voters in Benin City, In the other parts where I actually covered, that's in Irua area, a lot of people actually turned out. And of course, the ratio of men to women was quite close. A lot of women who came in to cast their ballot. And so it was quite interesting to see that a lot of women and young ladies were around to cast their ballot. But in Benin City, we're beginning to see activities come up. Everyone coming out to do their normal businesses. And of course, we expect that very soon INEC will let us know when they have to start the collation at the INEC office.
We have reported sorting and counting in some polling units. Can you confirm if voting is actually still taking place in areas where delay was experienced?
Well, the areas we visited in Benin City, actually voting and counting had ended. There are some that we visited that INEC officials were already packing their things. The register of the number of votes cast in different polling units were already was already pasted there, and they were packing their things to move to the next phase. So many polling stations that we visited, we saw that the elections and counting and sorting, everything has been done and they had left, while some others were just about leaving the premises. But from what we have seen so far, everything so far, and from what we have heard from people who were there voting, the elections went on quite well in some other polling units. Yeah.
When do you envisage collation to commence at the state level?
Well, going by the antecedents with INEC, we expect it to happen either this night or probably at about tomorrow morning. That's maybe about 10 a.m. or 9 a.m. tomorrow, it depends. But actually right now we know the venue of which INEC is going to have this collation and make the announcement. But we are just waiting for when INEC will tell us the time all of this will start, because they will have to wait for results to be coming in from different areas, especially the riverine areas and far-reaching areas where they have to drive in several hours into Benin City. So we expect that if INEC gets a substantial number of results from different areas in Edo State, they will start probably tomorrow morning, safe to say.
Thifula Salama live for us in Benin. Looks like it's going to be a long night for you and for all of us as we come down to the collation proper. Please stay updated. We're going to get back to you and get more updates from you shortly. Mr. Oshoma, it's obvious that INEC still has, a lot of logistic challenges to deal with. It's what we talk about every election year. But the build up to this election, there were quite a number of security concerns. I'm wondering how you rate security operatives thus far. Police made some huge arrests overnight, even to the extent of calling the party, naming publicly the party that these suspected political thugs support. And also we've seen area surveillance, a lot of arrests made in the area of vote buying. How do you rate police performance thus far?
Yeah, I would, before the election, a lot of people thought that it was going to be like, remember the Oshun incidents where DSS, were arresting passive oppositions. And, so a lot of people thought, that was going to be the experience in Edo. And the governor was threatening fire and brimstone, that it was going to be a do or die, and, that the police commissioner must be transferred, the INEC commissioner,
Right.
The resident electoral commissioner must be transferred out. But so far, so good. Politicians, they cry foul in the money. They complain, but the moment it favors them, then it is kudos to the institution. So far, we've seen the police, the security operatives had shown, a lot of, independence and professionalism in the way they have handled security in the state. And then also, we expect that it shouldn't just be about one-off election. I think we should have a system, a situation where technology should play a much more bigger role.
That's right.
In our election than it is playing now, where you really don't have to shut down the entire state. Imagine because it is only when there is protest that we count losses, businesses and the amount that are lost that day. If you know the volume of commerce that would have been, halted today in Edo State because of the election. And now, some people, after the election, some people will still see if they can quickly make, a quick, dash, for business, to open businesses, especially the restaurant and, So I would want to see a situation where election is not a do or die.
What really is holding us back from throwing it open? The curfew, has it really helped in the security of our polls?
To a very large extent, you would say it has, because, when the Chinua Achebe in Things Fall Apart said, Eleke the bird said, if hunters have learned to shoot without missing, then the bird will learn to fly without perching. Because of the desperation and the attitude of politicians. So you would say restriction of movement also would help, because otherwise it would have been a reign of, free for all. We know how people come, snatch ballot boxes, and then just, vanish. At the end of the day, results will still be announced in those places. So, but then, if you limit human interference, there won't be needs for you to restrict movement, because the idea of having to snatch the ballot boxes and all of that won't be there. If you limit human interference, you don't need to shut down the state. People won't be, the desperation also, people will know that you need to go to the field, talk to the people, win them, and the desperation would be reduced. But because of the attitude of politicians, their desperation to election, they kill to serve you. Politicians, you can have a landmass, a massive landmass. If there is no polling unit, politicians will not be interested in it. But on the day of election, no matter how remote a village is, materials get there. But after election, these same places, they will tell you that governance, can't get to these places. So I listened to Kunu, earlier in the day, talking about Akoko Edo, areas like Orionwo, where ordinarily you would be asking yourself if government is actually in these places. But on election campaign time, you see massive rallies in these places.
They come alive.
The rallies come alive, and then they come make the same promises again, and until the next election. So if we can actually, take materials to these places, I think that if we also introduce technologies, we would limit all of this, movement and people having to travel. I know the number of people, a lot of people, some people came from abroad because of this election, because the stakes are quite high.
Good.
So I know a lot of people that will travel back home to say, okay, yes, I want to go participate. You can ask for, your ballot to be mailed to you. You can decide on the day of election. Just look at NBA election. We sit down anywhere you are. Once you have all the, you can say it's not perfect, but to a very large extent, it has eased a lot of troubles. So the moment voting ends, we already know, you're seeing it real time, who is leading. Even those, the older generation do not like it because a lot of them are not internet savvy. Absolutely. So you find the young people taking over the process. So I think that there should be a time when...
You don't think it's also a reflection of our development status? Because as we speak right now, we're still having some issues with BVAS. There are still reported cases of where voters had to wait, for those machines to work. Can we rate INEC independent of our development reality as a nation?
No, development reality and leadership reality. Our political leadership is still analog in nature. And so their thinking is still analog, and that's why they still think that, for them to be able to, there has to be human interference for somebody, the desired amongst them to emerge. If there's no human interference, the political space will be taken over completely, from them. And so they do not want that. So, and that's why not that you can't say that it's a technological reality, because if we actually want to advance beyond this, we can.
That's right.
If INEC, before now, if you remember the same 2010, I remember Senator Udoma Igbe, then the Senate Majority Leader, was very vociferous against PVC, card readers. They called it direct data capturing machine then. And he said it was akin to electronic voting. But today, we are not just talking about, voting. We're also talking about transmitting results. So that means if we want to involve technology real time, we'll be able to do it. And then we won't now still sit down in the studio and be waiting for INEC. We would have eliminated all this having to wait for INEC. Everybody can see result and collate it, you know. Then automatically, as the results are coming, instead of this sheet of paper where people just, you know, have to sit down, begin to tabulate one after the other again, the system automatically tabulates it. And then just like the American election, we sit down here and we're looking at the red and the blue numbers, you know. So we can have it here. This, what do you call it, technology, you know, are all out there for sale.
Unfortunately, the excitement about IREF seemed to have died down because INEC came out to say, you know what, this is not our tabulation system. And then it takes a long time before the figures are updated. They're not updated in real time. So it makes it lose the old steam of the role it's supposed to play.
Yeah, because what they had turned it to, it's like they said, is a viewing portal and not a tabulation portal. So if you want to view, you know, so it's like a cinema. You want to look at the movie being acted. You go there. And then the saddest part of it is that it says, you know, the process, even though you're trying to innovate, but that the collation is still manual. By INEC guidelines, it says the result sheets will still be handed over and then still be taken. But that's what they just need to do is to ensure that it tallies with the result that have been transmitted. So in the event that it does not tally, then you still have recourse to the manual process that was handed over to the police. I think INEC regulation number 98. You know, so all of these things, you know, still makes this entire process, you know, very cumbersome and analog in nature. And that's why you still want to shut down the entire state, you militarize it. So when you have a general election, when it's not staggered this way, the policemen are not enough to take care of security. So there are lapses. And there are also another voters' attitude to governance. We operate a feeding bottle system of government where the entire country is a local government. The president is a local government chairman. So the governors are like, you know, sub head boys who go to Abuja once every month to go collect feeding bottle from the federal. And so when the election comes like that, people are not really interested in the state governor's election because after all, they are given handout. You don't have to work hard to be a governor in Nigeria. You don't even have to have anything upstairs. Just wait. Even if you come, you meet empty treasury. You take over office today. By the end of the month, allocation will drop on your lap. You begin to share. But if it's a state where you have to work to generate the revenue, people will sit down and think. So that's why a lot of people also are not interested. And then you think that the local government election should be the one that the people would really want to participate in because that is the government that is closest to the people. But the numbers keep dropping. The lower you go, the lower the numbers. Meanwhile, you say all problems are local, all solutions should be local. But we look at the problems from the center and leave out. So, and that's why you also have these numbers at the local government, the state governor's election. It will reduce. But if it's the presidential election, everybody goes home. We are more interested in who become the local government chairman, what we call president, than who becomes the governor.
You know, generally there's a disconnect between the people and those who govern them. But, you know, the conversation we've had is that Edo people are enlightened politically. How come that is not showing in the voter turnout number?
Everybody is enlightened politically. Everybody in Nigeria is enlightened politically because you see the more people are enlightened, the less they vote in Nigeria. That's why you find out that, look at Theophilus, your reporter, he said, you find that you have a lot of women and girls, you know.
There are actually more men more male registered voters, about 52%.
But you have more women voters.
Yeah.
You know, so those women, those market people that you think, you know, ordinarily are not educated, depending on, you're talking about Western education now, they know the importance of, you know, participating in the process of who governs them.
Or maybe they were induced.
Even that's another area I'm coming to. Even if it means, you know, giving them apron in the market, they know that okay, this one is better than this person. Oh, other this person, we had it rough. So let's try something else. But the rest of us will sit down, we adumbrate and postulate, and then begin to look at numbers. On the day of election, we are nowhere to be found. You know, so that's why you find out that the people who are actually taking the political decisions are those you call uneducated. Why the educated people you say are discerning are not, they are nowhere to be found. Because when you are not a human being, except the government says you are, that's why they give you certificate of birth, certificate of registration, certificate that you are educated. They certify you for everything, a license that you can drive. The people who take the decisions to determine whether you can drive, whether you are a human being or not, are left in the hands of those that join politics.
That's right.
And that's why when you look at both sides, if you take time to attend any ward meeting, and you see the kind of people there, these are the people that will graduate from that low ladder to get to, you know, governorship, senators, House of Rep. And that's why in the election, you know, for the candidate of the APC, and people are like, oh, look, how did APC, you know, arrive at this? And then you ask yourself, these are the people that are in politics. These are the ones that join politics. You don't expect to sit down in your house and they will come and beg you to come join. These are people that will attend ward meetings, they are the people that will share salt, that will share rice to voters, to party members. So when it is time for nomination, the question is, have you worked? These are people that work.
You're saying until the best of us get involved in politics.
Get involved.
We can't get.
We'll continue to have the worst of us.
Let us talk about
best of us.
Vote buying for a bit, because Yaga talked about certain polling units and local government areas where political parties were given 10,000 naira. In fact, an election observer got in the midst of this and he was beating Black and Blue, you know, for intervening. But what we don't talk about is the system of voter inducement in the build-up to this election. We saw the parties, the APCs, the PEP, giving rappers, giving money.
It's all voters inducement now.
Giving rights. So we expect EFCC to swing into action on election day. But how come we allow for such a system in the build-up to the exercise?
See, we are not serious. We are not a serious-minded people. On election day, you see EFCC will wear EFCC jackets as if people would be carrying money to share. Look, let me tell you, our election is highly monetized. Even people, when they attend rallies, it is the same set of people. They give them T-shirts. There are no volunteers for elections. There are no volunteers. What we have are people who, you know, out of lack of anything to do. That is why even governors, they hawk special advisors, office of special advisors. If you want to come and collect office of special advisor for 75,000 or for 150,000, so that you can be a grassroots mobilizer for the party, you know. So those people are there. They are special advisors without desk. They don't even have office. We saw Wike do it. In 2020, we also saw it happen.
Wike had about 120,000.
Yes, 150,000, you know. In, what do you call it, Edo, we also saw it. Philip Shaibu and Obaseki in 2020, they were selling special advisors. That's where you start from. And then campaign, really, proper campaign. You see them, you are going to campaign, somebody will donate the caps, and then they'll share. Somebody will donate aprons, and then they share to market. When you ask yourself, how come it's only during election that you're sharing aprons, you're sharing wrappers? These are ways of, you know, inducing voters. You share wrapper, women leader. They never have men leader, though. They put 5,000 or 2,000 naira, you know. So these are ways, and that's why they will continually weaponize poverty. Because it is when you are down there that these things matter. You know, matter to you.
That's right.
So, and they will continually call you my leader, sir, my godfather. So, and on the day of election, you are now looking for people who are buying votes. They bought vote. And that's why also, the night before election, any election that is postponed, the politicians will cry. You know why they are crying? Because if you postpone election on the day of election, on the night before election, all the money that has been shared to ward leaders and to leaders at the various units, you know, will just go down the drain. You need to share another one. And starting from the rallies, You don't go to rallies without mobilization.
That's right.
You saw how even the general election, people were quarreling that they came for rallies, they were not, their mobilization were not paid. You know, they tell you, oh, we came, we're supposed to eat. We're supposed to be
all those
fed.
crowd you see, is
it's the same crowd.
From the love,
it is the same.
love of the
it's
candidate.
the same crowd. If you're a governor, you give instruction to every local government chairman to bring at least, to sponsor at least, 10 buses from their local government to the rally.
Indeed.
So on the day of election, some people who couldn't do all of those during, the campaign will also still keep something somewhere. You remember the Edibo Sebe vote buying techniques. Because before, some people will collect money and then go vote for candidate of their choice. The politician said, no, you can't be doing that. Let me see who you are voting for. If you vote for us, then you come to the corner and collect something.
And
because of the rates, the poverty level, and so for some persons, you might think 10,000 or 5,000 naira is small, but to those people, they've not seen 10,000 naira in a month. And so it's huge. They're waiting. So let me just collect this one. If I don't collect it now, even when they get into office, you will never see them. You never hear from them again. So if this is the one I will collect, let me collect it. So that's why we need to vote in people who will not see poverty as a weapon to continually flog the people. And then they give you a handout. They want you to celebrate them and see if you've done something. Oh, let us celebrate our amiable governor who has deemed its feet, as if he's using his money, And these things are done openly. It has become a tradition that when I see on the election day, I see FCC trying to, or people saying, oh, they are the CCC somewhere trying to harass, 1 or 2%. I just laugh. I'm like, this thing why didn't you go to rallies to begin to collect, arrest people for sharing whatever they are sharing? Because indirectly, that's what they are doing. They are buying your votes.
Indeed. Let us try to connect back to Benin, where we have Hamzat Lawal, who is Chief Executive Connected Development. He's one of the observers in this election. Hi, Hamzat. Good to see you again. Been a long day. What have you observed thus far? What are the highlights for you concerning the polling units you visited today?
Thank you. Good to be back on the UVS Zoom. So what I've observed is that there's tension, of course, because there's a lot of uncertainty on what might become the outcome of this election. A lot of security on ground deployed, perimeter security by the military. I see men of DSS, I see police, I see civil defense. My major concern is voter inducement. The last time we spoke, interestingly, apparently, just by my corner, just by my side, about 1 meter away, was where I set up was where they were doing sorting of money, counting, and also payment of votes. So they have a system where they verify who you vote for, and then you come and claim. Depends on your age and your status in society. You get 10,000 from 5,000, in between 5,000 to 15,000. Just when we finished speaking, I became so uncomfortable, so I had to move. Interestingly, the woman approached me because they actually recognized me from my TV appearances. And then they said, oh, yes, we know you're that guy that always talk. And they offered me money also, and even refreshment, so which I had to decline. So since they recognized me, I had to call for backup, and then had me moved away from that polling unit to other polling units. It's really interesting. And what baffles me is just a couple of meters from where they're sorting and sharing money, you have other security agencies. So I just wonder, is it that they've already compromised them to have a blind eye on what's going on? Because if they can approach civil society observer, it's also certain that they've approached, because before I even left, I saw them talking to one of the security the leader of one of the security group on the ground. So I was wondering what kind of negotiation was ongoing. So, but I had to leave for my own safety because, from experience, I don't want to get caught up, in this, because they're very desperate and they can actually you know, yeah, transfer physical harm to me.
I'm wondering how much exactly they were willing to offer you, which category you fit you fit into in the amount they were sharing. But it's a very interesting story. Unfortunately, it's also the same story we've heard, year in, year out in election years. But how were they verifying who the voters actually voted for before giving them money?
Oh, fantastic. So, just around the polling area, you have all the political party agents. So there are two systems. The first system is they give you a piece of paper. Once you cast your vote and they're able to verify who you vote for, the party agent will give you a piece of paper, in open space. So nobody can really say, oh, why are they giving piece of paper? But that piece of paper sort of verifies that you voted for their party, and then you can go to another corner, which is the corner where I set up to show this paper to, this payment agent, and then you get your cash. So that's one way they're verifying. The other way they're verifying is, of course, some of them know their party members. And then because sometimes when they come in, there's a way they greet themselves. When electorate greets some people, and then you wonder, okay, they have their mobilization and identification strategy, and then the person casts their ballots. Let's even hang out around them. They were sharing refreshments. So they offered me gala and drink, the same thing they were sharing before money. And, I had to turn that down. So that's how they verified. I think that, and I was listening to the guest in your studio. You see, we're not serious. We're not serious because first I would talk to INEC before I come to security. We had months and years knowing that this Edo election will be off-cycle elections. And I agree, you don't just start deploring men of EFCC on election day. For me, it's just a jamboree. Voter inducement starts even from before political party primaries. Because let's tell ourselves the truth. Yes, I listen and I agree that yes, this is how this candidate emerged through ward meetings, local government meeting, and even the state before even the national convention. But there is a level of voter inducement, even like your guest alluded, where they share rice and wrapper and whatnot. Then they come to the political party rallies. I've been going to political party rally when I was in secondary school, junior secondary school. I remember I'm even less. I was 15, 16 years, my first rally. And at that time, they were sharing Kuno and pure water. But now they're so sophisticated. Nobody will collect Kuno or pure water from you when you go to this rally. So it's a build-up of how society have literally lost its value. The fabric of society value have been lost, whereby, it's now about money politics. So INEC, INEC, if I would score INEC, I'll not score them well. Because why would you delay deployment of materials for over 2 hours? You see, when I resumed this morning on your show, I was at a rack center that had over 11 polling units. And even as early as the time we connected, we still saw NYC corps members with sensitive and non-sensitive materials still waiting. There was not enough bus, and they said they had to redeploy security people to come and escort them even when the bus came. And then you wonder, police said they've deployed over 35,000 men. You have civil defense, you have DSS, you even have road safety, you have correctional officials, and then you cannot see them mobilize effectively to escort personnel and their sensitive material to the field. It was just a shame. Why would we still have elections where we still have logistical glitches? And if you look at the budget of how much, monies were released for this election, then you can't just phantom why there are still this kind of challenge. Mind you, this is an off-cycle election and just one election today. Now, let's talk about security. Yes, there was a lot of security on the ground, which guaranteed the safety of lives and property, and how people got confident and turned out to vote. But at the early stage, I saw that yes, there were a lot of voter turnout. But you see, when it was getting to 1, 2, I think that we and the numbers are not yet out, because again we need to rely on the numbers of beavers.
That's right.
To determine. I don't think we had a lot of turnout. I think there is some level of apathy. Yes, again, when I was on the field, 2 times I experienced rain. After we spoke, and then later on there was rain, and the second rain was really heavy, and it lingered for long. But again, we'll wait until the numbers come in, and then we know if there was voter apathy or a lot of
You,
voter
you,
turnout.
you think that the weather condition and perhaps delay on the part of INEC could have also, impacted on voter turnout?
I think delay of INEC. I don't think the weather condition. I also think that the environment before this election, the heated polity, the apprehension, the tension, and the beats and sounds from political spokespersons, candidates, and the political party. That atmosphere of not even signing the peace accord and what would be what would become of this election. Because the signal people were sending was, oh, this was do or die affair. Yeah. We're going to unleash mayhem. We're going to send our political machinery to interfere in the process. It was just a shit show, if you allow. Yeah.
But what's your evaluation of how violence-free the whole exercise has been relative to, all of this tension in the build-up?
Yeah, well, the election so far was violent-free. We've not seen any incident that is of serious concern, apart from, of course, the observer that was beat up, and some other people who EFCC have claimed to have arrested. That was inducing votes. I didn't take it serious because what happened in Ekiti? What happened to the people they apprehended? So yeah.
Hamza Dawal, Chief Executive, Connected Development, Election Observer in Benin. Thank you so much for the update.
My pleasure.
Well, let's return to the studio. Let's talk about the political component of this election for a bit, the political gladiators, and how you think voters, will decide. Let's begin with how issue-based you think this election has been. All of the three top contenders are relatively new. Okwebolo, who is a sitting senator, only won election last year. Aswa Igodalo is, newbie from corporate law. And then you have your colleague in the NBA, who's also testing waters for the first time. Some have said that perhaps we did not have enough robust conversations or hear them speak to the issues, that it's been about the politics and the political figures behind them, that this was an election to settle the scores between the likes of the Oshomole and Philip Shaibu of Edo.
For me, the only person that I dared to talk about issues was the Labour Party candidate, Olumide Akpata. Because
do you have a soft spot for him because you're a lawyer?
Not really. Yes, Olumide is my friend. Aswa is my friend.
But Aswa is a lawyer too. That's true.
Yes, but I can tell you, the two APC and PDP candidates, they are from the same pool, the same waters. One backed by Oshomole and the powers that be from Abuja, allegedly, and then the other one by the state governor. So
allegedly, because Abuja says
when I said Abuja, there's also the Senate president had been mentioned in all of these. Okay. The chief of staff to the president had been mentioned. So what you don't expect them to say? So our hands are not. But they settled the rift between the candidate and the running mate, and So, but anyway, you say party thing, you don't expect them to fold their hands. But that said, you also would look at the PDP candidate. The PDP candidate is, that was what even led to the ouster of Philip Shaibu from the party. It's heavily backed by the governor. So that's why you have the APC, Oshomole, leading the charge in one area, and then the PDP, the governor, leading the charge on the other side. So when you have such a scenario, what you're going to have is brickbats. Why the PDP will attempt to rub mud on the APC's governance at the center and what is happening in Nigeria generally, the APC would also attempt to rub mud on the PDP on what is happening in Edo. That, look, it has not been different. You have not been able to handle, so when you are expecting the issues, one would think they are discussing the issues by drawing from what is happening in Nigeria generally, APC being government at the center. Why the APC will say, look at Edo, for the past 8 years, there's been no development. But in actual sense, you can't take one out of the other. They are all from the same pool. So that's why when Labour, Olumide Akpata also talks, you listen to him and he says, look, the issues are the fact that, you know, for 8 years you've earned so and so, but you have abandoned governance, you've collected so and so loan, and, you know. So one would expect that election generally in Nigeria should be, you know, not just about the problems, but about how we hope. That's what I call issue-based. We all know the problem. The Nigerians, everybody in Nigeria knows the problem of Nigeria. But no politicians will tell you how they want to do it. You hear APC also say, when we come, the first 100 days we'll clear outstandings. With the first 100 days, we'll tar all the roads. We'll build bridges where there are no rivers. You know. So, and then coupled with the fact that it is all talk at rallies. And those words said at rallies usually, like, they are like election campaign just thrown to the wind. You don't hold anybody accountable. There are no pacts signed with the people to say, yes, when I come, we should, even the town hall meetings that they had, we're held in Lagos, you know. So it is not a... And
the debates held in Edo, many
of them
did not attend.
A lot of them didn't attend because they felt, look, you know, in America, they'll tell you debate don't win election, but it's also a way of people interacting with your mind and how you want to do it. For me, it should be about how. The hows are missing. What we basically do is come, talk about the problems, regurgitate the problems. Oh, there's so much suffering, there's so much this, there's so much that. And that's why when they win, they tell you they didn't know the problems were this enormous. Oh, I thought, but I didn't know it was this enormous, or would I came with. And then for the next 8 years, they throw blames at each other.
Hold that thought for a moment. We're going to talk more about the political dimensions to it, because some have said this is pretty much about some individuals fighting for their political survival. Where Edo State is concerned.
If either APC or PDP wins this election, at the end, it's going to be the fights that is currently happening will not end because you have a lot of interest, you know, melted in one pot.
And there are some people who have come together for the purpose of election. And then
how they are going to share the loot.
New troubles will begin thereafter. Nelson Okujibi is an election observer who is also joining us now. Hi, Nelson. Where are you currently? Walk us through the highlight of what you've observed today.
Well, thank you very much. I'm speaking to you from Ring Road, Benin City. That's in the Oredo local government area of Edo State, the state capital. And this morning, we all went out, just like the voters in Edo State, to monitor the process. And I can report to you that via physical observation as well as monitoring via the media, one can conclude that the election has been largely peaceful and successful. Why do I say this? We had INEC arriving early in some places, in many of the places, but in some few places, they arrived late. But as in the tradition of INEC, once they start late, then the time for closing of their polls must be extended.
That's right.
And a lot of voters said they spent just about less than 4 minutes to perform the exercise. And you saw INEC personnel who displayed a very clear understanding of their functions as well as their use of the equipment that they came with. Where a voter cannot be authenticated by the thumb, where after presentation of his PVC, he or she is authenticated through facial authentication. And in that way, it reduces the stress, the time spent on the queue. You had party agents there jostling with one another. You had them speaking in their local languages. You could sense that something was going on, but because you don't understand the language, you can't go and employ an interpreter to come and tell you what is this man saying or this woman saying. But you know they were trying to induce voters. And you had INEC ensure that the materials arrived, and after voting, some left. Unfortunately for us here in Edo, Benin, it rained for most part of the day, and that in a way drove away the voters. I suspect, because as human beings, some persons, because of the rain, will tell you, I'm not going to vote. I don't want to get wet. And some have health conditions, while some are people like we say in the Yoruba Palace, and somebody that does not want to go and vote before. So we have something to hold on to that I'm not going to vote. Then you also had people who told you that they are afraid to come out. They want people to start voting before they come out to vote. That also tells us a lot about the violence that preceded today's election. By and large, results have been declared at the polling stations. For me, CAT have been entered into, signed and countersigned by the electoral officer. Party agents have received copies.
All right.
A lot of polling stations are closed. We are expecting the collation of results to move to the ward levels.
Well, we have to take a break for the news at 7, but in the polling units where you visited, what was the average time for the conclusion of sorting and counting? And are there places where the voting exercise is still ongoing?
I suspect in some very few places where voting didn't start early, voting exercise could still be going on, because I don't have that fact for now. But I know very well that even INEC issued a statement that from Abuja that the INEC in Edo State should ensure that no voter is disenfranchised. And we have not had reports of people who told us that they waited that long, and because they arrived late, they were sent packing. So the information we have right now is that maybe voting has ended in those places and they have started, because officially the closing time of the poll was supposed to be 2:30, where they started early. Like that was what transferred in many of the polling stations. So for now, the sorting and counting of papers, I didn't take note of the time, but you can be rest assured that, like I said earlier on, the INEC personnel displayed excellent understanding of their functions. They displayed good understanding of the equipment they came with. It was not like they were asking anybody or they were fumbling with materials or not knowing what to do. Right. It went on smoothly, and that's why if you take reports from across the state, a lot of places election went on peacefully and orderly.
All right. That's pretty much our time, Nelson. We'll get back to you as we count down to the commencement of collation at the state level. Nelson Ekujime live for us at Ring Road area in Benin City, Edo State capital. Libros Oshoma is still right here with me. We'll continue our conversation about the political dynamics to this election, but we're going to take a short break for the news at 7, and we'll be right back. Stay with us, everyone.